I've always thought my life was pretty straightforward. My name is Mike, and I was married to Jessica for nearly 5 years. We met in college, both idealistic and passionate about the same causes: environmentalism, social justice, and indigenous land rights. It all felt like a perfect match, our values intertwined. But lately, things had started to feel off. Jessica had become distant, wrapped up in her own activism and spending more time with her co-activists. I was proud of her, really. She had this fire in her that inspired me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When she started coming home late more often, claiming to be at meetings or protests, I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe I was just being a clingy husband. I chalked it up to her passion for the cause. But there was this one night that changed everything. I was at home scrolling through social media when I stumbled upon a photo of Jessica on a friend's page. She was at a rally, but it was the caption that caught my eye: "Love fighting for the land with my partner in every sense." My heart sank. It was just a throwaway comment, but something about it made me uneasy. I decided to confront her about it the next day. When she came home, I could tell she was in a good mood, laughing and animated, but I didn't want her energy to sweep me into complacency. I took a breath and asked her about the photo. "Who's your partner in every sense?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Her smile faded. "Oh, come on, Mike, it's just a figure of speech. You know how passionate we all are about this work. It's just activism." But I could see the slight twitch in her jaw, the way her eyes darted away. The more I pressed, the more defensive she became. "You're being ridiculous, Mike. I'm doing important work here. You should be proud." It was like watching a mask slip. The anger in her voice was new, raw. I had never seen her like this before. The next few days were tense. I kept watching her, trying to gather more evidence. Then one afternoon, I found her phone on the kitchen counter. I picked it up, heart racing. I had never gone through her phone before. But my gut was screaming at me. I scrolled through her messages, and there it was. A string of flirty texts with one of her co-activists, a guy named Jake. The texts were graphic, and the explicit nature of them was like a punch to the gut. I felt sick. I put the phone down, my hands shaking. It was real. She was cheating on me. I had been right all along. I had trusted her, had given her my heart, and here she was, throwing it away for some guy who was probably just as passionate about the cause as she was. The moment she came home, I confronted her again. "We need to talk, Jessica." I was calm, but inside I was boiling. I wanted to scream, to throw things. Instead, I asked her, "How long has this been going on?" Her reaction was immediate. "What are you talking about? You're being insane." But her defenses crumbled when I pulled up the messages. I showed her the screen, and I'll never forget the look on her face as she realized she had nowhere to hide. "I can explain," she blurted out, her voice rising. "It's not what you think." But I wanted to hear what she had to say. I needed to know how she would justify betraying me like this. She stammered out some half-hearted excuse about how Jake understood her better, how they connected on a deeper level through their activism. "You don't really get it, Mike. You're just not as involved," she shouted, completely missing the point. I walked away, feeling like my life was unraveling. I couldn't believe I was standing there, watching the woman I loved defend her infidelity instead of apologizing. I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak, like a storm brewing inside me. I had trusted her, and she had shattered that trust in one fell swoop. As I sat on the couch, the weight of the situation began to crush me. All those times I had thought everything was fine, those were just illusions. My mind swirled with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and confusion. All the love I felt for her was now tainted, replaced with a deep sadness I hadn't anticipated. I was furious, but I was also devastated. How could I have been so blind? It felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I realized I had to make a decision about our future, but I didn't know where to start. All I knew was that this was going to change everything. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't get her betrayal out of my mind. Every corner of our home felt tainted by the lies she told. I kept replaying our conversations in my head, searching for signs I might have missed, moments that hinted at her duplicity. She was supposed to be my partner, my confidant, the woman I had built a life with, and now everything felt hollow. I found myself withdrawing from friends and family. I felt like I had to keep this shattering secret close to my chest. I didn't want anyone's pity or judgment, but I also needed to talk to someone. So I turned to the only person I could trust, my brother Derek. He'd always had a knack for cutting through the bullshit. When I arrived at his place, I could hardly contain my emotional turmoil. "Man, I need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. He could see it on my face. I was a mess. I told him everything about Jessica's late nights, my suspicions, and then the texts I found. Derek's expression shifted from concern to disbelief. "She's cheating on you with some activist dude?" he asked incredulously. "That's insane, Mike. I'm really sorry." He listened intently, nodding as I shared the details of our confrontation. "You deserve better than that," he said, anger creeping into his voice. "You've always been there for her. She took that for granted." I knew he was right. I had supported her ambitions, cheered her on during her campaigns, and stood by her through thick and thin. And yet, here she was, betraying everything we had built together. "You need to confront her again," he suggested. "You need to show her how serious this is. This isn't just a fling, man. It's a complete breach of trust. If she cares about you at all, she needs to understand the gravity of what she's done." I went home that night still simmering with anger, but also filled with a strange sense of determination. I had to confront her again, not just about the affair, but about what it meant for our future. I could let her manipulate this situation any longer. When Jessica walked through the door that evening, I was ready. I stood in the living room, arms crossed and jaw set. "We need to talk," I said firmly. She braced herself, a flicker of realization crossing her face. I could see she was already on the defensive. "What now, Mike? I thought we settled this already." "No, we didn't settle anything. You think this is over. You have no idea how much this affects me. You're cheating on me. Do you even understand how completely shattered I feel right now?" I could feel the heat rising in my chest as I spoke. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she pleaded. "Jake is just, he gets me, you know. You've been so busy with work and I felt so alone." The excuses were spilling out of her mouth, a desperate attempt to justify her actions. "Feelings don't justify infidelity, Jess. You could have come to me. You could have talked to me about feeling alone. Instead, you decided to cheat on me, to betray the vows we made to each other." I was shouting now, but every word felt warranted. It felt like I was finally reclaiming my voice. She looked taken aback, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and defiance. "You're being unreasonable. You can't just throw this all away because I made a mistake." "A mistake? This isn't a mistake, Jessica. A mistake is accidentally spilling coffee. This is a conscious choice you made time and again. You chose him over me. That's not a mistake. I'm not willing to be your option." The air between us thickened with tension. Her face flushed with anger, but I could also see the fear lurking beneath. "What do you want from me, Mike?" she demanded. "I want honesty," I said, my voice steadied. "I want to know if there's anything left for us to salvage here. Do you even want to work on this?" Her silence spoke volumes. In that moment, I realized how far apart we had drifted. She was more concerned about defending her actions than truly addressing the hurt she had caused. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "I don't know if I can go back to how things were." My heart sank. I had hoped for some semblance of remorse, some acknowledgement of the pain she had inflicted, but all I was met with was uncertainty. It was devastating to hear her say that. I thought we had built something strong, but it felt like everything was crumbling. That night, I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with my racing thoughts. The betrayal weighed heavily on me, but I also felt this strange clarity washing over me. I had loved her deeply, but I could no longer ignore the truth. Trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to mend. As days turned into weeks, the emotional roller coaster continued. I fluctuated between anger and despair, and every time I looked at Jessica, I felt that initial sting of betrayal. I knew I had to decide what my next steps would be. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, and I needed to either find a way to move forward together or, as hard as it was to admit, step away for good. I realized now that I was at a crossroads. I had to make a choice. Do I fight for a relationship that felt so tenuous, or do I take the hard road and reclaim my independence? The thought of leaving was terrifying, but so was the idea of being trapped in a relationship built on lies. As I grappled with the decision in front of me, the weight of Jessica's betrayal felt heavier with each passing day. I started to visualize what my life could look like without her. I had spent so long wrapped up in our marriage that the idea of being single again was both terrifying and strangely liberating. I began to talk to Derek more frequently, seeking his support. We would hang out, grab beers, and try to distract ourselves from my personal crisis. One night as we sat at our favorite bar, he leaned back in his chair, looking at me with concern. "Dude, you can't keep living like this," he said, his tone serious. "You're not happy, you need to make a choice, and soon." "I know," I sighed, running my fingers through my hair. "It's just hard. We've built so much together. I don't want to throw that away lightly. But I can't ignore the fact that she's betrayed me." "Trust is everything." Derek nodded, his expression serious. "What about the idea of separation? Just take a step back. Give yourself some space to really think about what you want." I considered his words. Space sounded like a good idea, but the thought of confronting Jessica again filled me with dread. I had no idea how she would react. I could already picture the anger and the blame shifting back onto me. I wished she would show more remorse, but somehow she continued to play the victim. After a long night filled with contemplation, I made my decision. The next evening, as we sat on the couch together, I knew I had to take the plunge. "Jessica, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady. She looked at me, worry flickering across her face. "What now, Mike? I thought we were working on things. We need to discuss our future. I think it's clear we need some time apart." The words hung in the air, thick with tension. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice rising. "Are you seriously saying you want to separate?" "Yes," I replied, trying to remain calm despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. "I need space to figure things out. This isn't just about the affair, it's about everything we've gone through and where we stand now. We can't keep pretending like things are okay when they're not." She opened her mouth to respond, but words seemed to fail her. I could see the shock settling in. "You can't be serious," she finally exclaimed. "You're just going to throw everything away because of one mistake." "It's not just one mistake, Jess. It's the betrayal and the way you've handled it. You haven't shown any real remorse. You keep deflecting blame, and I can't live like this anymore." Her eyes flared with anger. "So what? You're just going to walk away, is that it?" "It's not just walking away. I need to protect myself and my feelings. I can't keep living in this toxic environment where I'm constantly second-guessing everything," I explained, trying to remain composed. Jessica crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "You're being dramatic, Mike. You're acting like I killed someone or something. We can work through this." "Work through it how? You need to understand that trust takes time to rebuild, and I don't even know if I want to try anymore," I said, my heart racing. Her bravado faltered for a moment, and I could see the crack in her facade. "I thought you loved me. You're just going to give up." "I do love you, but love isn't enough if there's no trust. I need to focus on myself right now and figure out what I really want." She stared at me, her eyes glistening, and for a moment I thought I saw genuine emotion. I didn't think it would come to this. I thought you'd forgive me," she whispered. "I can't just forgive and forget, Jess. I need time to process everything." My words hung in the air, a finality settling over the room. With that, I stood up and walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to hurt her, but I needed to prioritize my own well-being. The sense of loss washed over me, but I knew it was the right decision. Over the next week, I moved into the spare bedroom. It felt strange to be living together but apart, navigating this new reality where we were forced to coexist in the same space but completely disconnected on an emotional level. I tried to keep things civil, but every interaction felt strained, filled with unspoken words and lingering resentment. Jessica would still attempt to engage in conversation, often trying to justify her actions. "You know, Mike, Jake and I were just exploring ideas together. It didn't mean anything," she would say, her voice almost pleading. I'd respond with silence, biting my tongue to avoid further conflict. I didn't want to hear her excuses anymore. I needed to focus on myself first, a task that felt daunting but necessary. I started going to therapy, hoping to sort through my feelings and gain clarity on what I wanted. Each session was like peeling back layers of an onion, revealing the deeper pain beneath. My therapist encouraged me to express my feelings and confront the emotional turmoil that had been brewing. I also threw myself into my work and hobbies. I started going to the gym again, rediscovering a sense of purpose that had been lost during the chaos of our relationship. The gym became my sanctuary, a place where I could channel my anger and frustration into something productive. With each passing day, I felt a little more like myself. I was learning how to prioritize my own needs, how to stand up for myself in the face of betrayal. But the reality of what I was going through still weighed heavily on my mind. I was still in love with Jessica, despite everything. The memories of our shared dreams haunted me, but I was starting to understand that love alone wasn't enough to sustain a relationship. Even as I found bits of clarity, the emotional scars from her betrayal ran deep. I was torn between the love I had for her and the pain she'd caused me. I couldn't ignore the fact that leaving felt like both a loss and a relief, a complicated mess of grief and liberation. As I lay in bed one night, staring at the ceiling, I knew I had to make a choice soon. I needed to decide if I truly wanted to fight for our marriage or if it was time to let go and move forward. As the days turned into weeks, I started to feel a strange sense of empowerment. Each morning, I woke up in the spare bedroom, a newfound clarity guiding my thoughts. The initial shock of Jessica's betrayal had morphed into a determination to reclaim my life, to redefine who I was outside of our tumultuous relationship. But no matter how much I tried to focus on myself, Jessica remained a constant presence, lingering in the corners of my mind. Her attempts to bridge the gap between us became increasingly desperate. She'd leave me notes in the kitchen, little reminders of our past happiness. Remember our trip to the lake, they would say, or we can work through this, I know we can. I'd read each note and feel a mix of nostalgia and resentment. It was like she was trying to reach into my heart, but all I could feel was the pain of betrayal. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that those memories felt tainted now, that they were shadowed by her choices. One evening, I came home from the gym feeling more energized than I had in months. I walked into the kitchen, ready to throw together a quick dinner. That's when I noticed her sitting at the table, a glass of wine in hand. She looked up at me with a pleading expression. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I hesitated. I had learned to guard my heart, but the sadness in her eyes tugged at my conscience. "About what?" "I know I messed up," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "But I've been thinking a lot and I want to go to couples therapy. I want to work through this together." I felt my heart race at the suggestion, couples therapy. Did she really think that could fix things? "Jessica," I replied slowly, "you can't just throw a band-aid on this. What happened between us isn't something we can solve with a few sessions. Trust is broken." She leaned forward, desperate. "But I'm willing to put in the effort. I miss you, Mike. I miss us. I'm ready to change." The sincerity in her voice made my chest tight. I wanted to believe her, to think that her commitment to change was genuine. But every time I looked into her eyes, I remembered the betrayal. "You say you want to change, but what does that really mean?" "I need time to think about this," I said, feeling the walls I had built around my heart start to crack. "Please," she urged, "just give me a chance to show you that I can be the person you fell in love with." For a moment I was torn. The thought of rekindling our relationship sparked a flicker of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by the fear of being hurt again. I took a deep breath. "I need to focus on myself right now, Jess. I can't jump back into our relationship without knowing if it's truly what I want." The tension in the room thickened. Jessica's face fell and I could see the hurt etched into her features. "I understand," she said quietly, but there was an edge of disappointment in her voice. Days passed and the back and forth continued. Jessica would try to engage in conversations about our future, but every time she brought up therapy or rebuilding trust, I felt the walls around my heart harden. I wanted to believe that she could change, but doubt lingered like a shadow. Then one day, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a post that made my stomach drop. It was a photo of Jessica and Jake together at another rally, arms around each other, smiles plastered across their faces. The caption read, "Fighting the good fight with my favorite person. Love this community." I felt a surge of rage mixed with heartache wash over me. There it was again, her connection with him, flaunting their relationship in a way that felt so disrespectful to what we had shared. I slammed my phone down, my heart racing as anger bubbled to the surface. I stormed into the living room where Jessica was sitting on the couch, engrossed in her laptop. "You've got to be kidding me," I said, my voice low and controlled despite the storm in my chest. "What's wrong?" she asked, looking up at me with confusion. "That post," I said, pointing at my phone. "You're still with him, aren't you?" "What? No, it's just a picture. We're friends, Mike," she insisted, her tone defensive. "Friends? It doesn't look like that to me." I shot back, my anger bubbling over. "You're flaunting your relationship with him while I'm trying to figure out what's left of ours." She stood up, her expression shifting from confusion to frustration. "You don't understand. I'm trying to be part of a community that supports me. I thought you'd be happy for me." "Happy? You think I want to see the woman who cheated on me posing with the guy she cheated with? How naive can you be?" I felt the hurt pouring out of me, and with it, the anger I had bottled up for weeks. "I can't believe you're being this way," she shouted back. "Maybe if you were more involved in my life, you would understand." The irony of her accusation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had given so much of myself to support her passions, only to watch her betray me in the process. "Involved? You think that's what this is about? You chose to keep secrets, you chose him over me." Her face paled, and for a brief moment I saw a flicker of regret. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Mike. I thought we could get through this together. But we can't. Not when you keep dragging him into the picture." We stood there, both breathing heavily, the reality of our situation crashing over us like a wave. The tension in the room was palpable, and I felt the ground beneath my feet shift. In that moment, I realized that there was no going back to the way things were. The love I once had for her was still there, buried under layers of pain and betrayal. But I also understood that to truly heal, I needed to let go of her. "I can't do this anymore, Jessica," I said softly, the weight of my decision settling in. "It's time for me to walk away." Her eyes widened, shock etching her features. "Mike, please. Don't do this." "I have to," I said, my heart breaking. "I need to find my own path and focus on healing. I can't stay in a situation where I'm constantly reminded of your betrayal. It's not healthy for either of us." With that, I turned and walked away, the finality of my decision echoing in my mind. It was a painful choice, one that felt like ripping a piece of my heart out, but I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. I needed to reclaim my life, my happiness, and that meant letting go of the relationship that had caused me so much pain. As I sat in the quiet of my room that night, I felt a mix of fear and relief. I had taken a step into the unknown, but I knew it was a step toward healing. It was time to focus on myself and rediscover who I was outside of the pain of betrayal. It was time to rebuild. The days that followed my decision to walk away from Jessica were a mixture of relief and deep sorrow. I had finally chosen to prioritize my own well-being over the remnants of a relationship that had turned toxic, but the emotional fallout was still fresh. Each morning felt like a new chapter, and I was learning to navigate life without the constant presence of someone who had been my partner for so long. I dove headfirst into my work, pouring my energy into projects that had been sidelined during my marriage. I found purpose in tackling new challenges and engaging with colleagues. It felt liberating to reclaim my professional identity and focus on my own growth without the distractions of personal drama. I also started taking long walks in the evenings to clear my mind and reflect on everything that had happened. One evening, as I walked through a park near my house, I bumped into an old friend, Sarah. She was someone I had known since college but hadn't kept in touch with. Seeing her felt like a breath of fresh air. We exchanged pleasantries and caught up on life, and I told her a bit about my recent struggles, leaving out the more painful details of Jessica's betrayal. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mike," she said, her eyes showing genuine sympathy. "But it sounds like you're taking the right steps for yourself. Sometimes, walking away is the healthiest choice." Her words resonated with me. I realized that I had spent so long feeling like a victim in my own relationship that I was finally beginning to see my own strength. I could reclaim my life. As our conversation flowed, I found myself laughing and enjoying the moment, something I had missed for a while. After we parted ways, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was reminded that life could still hold joy, even amidst heartache. But there were still moments when Jessica's presence loomed large in my mind. She would send me texts here and there, often filled with apologies or updates about her life. I tried to respond politely, but every message felt like a reminder of the pain we had gone through. It was difficult to keep moving forward while she was still trying to linger in my life. Then one rainy afternoon, I received a call from Derek. "Hey man, I think you should come over. We need to talk," he said, his tone serious. I felt a pang of anxiety as I made my way to his place. I knew he wouldn't call unless it was important. When I arrived, I found him sitting on the couch, looking somewhat anxious himself. "Is everything okay?" I asked, taking a seat beside him. "Not really," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I saw Jessica the other day and she mentioned that she's really struggling with the separation. I just thought you should know." A mixture of emotions washed over me: concern, guilt, anger. "What do you mean struggling?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "She said she feels lost without you, that she's been trying to reach out but doesn't know how to make things right," Derek explained. "I thought maybe you'd want to check in on her or something." The thought of reaching out to Jessica sent a wave of anxiety through me. I had made the choice to walk away for both our sakes, and now she was struggling. I felt torn between wanting to support her and knowing that I couldn't put myself back into that emotional turmoil. "I don't think I can, Derek. I need to stay focused on myself right now. The last thing I want is to get sucked back into that mess," I admitted, feeling the knot in my stomach tight. "I get it," he said, nodding. "But maybe just a simple message. Let her know you're thinking of her. It might help both of you find closure." Closure. The word echoed in my mind. I realized that I hadn't truly given myself a chance to say goodbye to what we had. Perhaps acknowledging her struggles could help me find a sense of resolution as well. That night I sat down and drafted a message to Jessica. "Hey Jess, I heard from Derek that you've been having a tough time. I hope you're doing okay. I think we both need to move forward in our own ways, but I want you to know that I wish you the best." I hesitated before hitting send, my heart racing. Part of me worried that this would open a floodgate of emotions, but I knew I needed to take this step for my own peace of mind. I hit send and felt an immediate mix of relief and anxiety. A few hours later, my phone buzzed with a response. "Thank you for reaching out, Mike. It means a lot. I'm really trying to work on myself and figure things out. I hope you're doing well too." It was a simple message, but it felt heavy with meaning. For the first time, I sensed a crack in Jessica's armor. She was acknowledging her struggles, and I was finally able to see the humanity behind her actions. Over the next few days, we exchanged a few more messages, each one slightly less charged with emotion. I began to feel a sense of closure start to settle within me. I wasn't ready to jump back into a relationship, but I could acknowledge the pain, the love, and the lessons learned. As I reflected on it all, I began to think about what I had truly learned from this experience. I had discovered resilience within myself that I never knew existed. I had learned the importance of putting my needs first and recognizing that love isn't enough if it's built on a shaky foundation. I had also learned that forgiving and moving on doesn't mean forgetting, but rather allowing myself to heal. As the weeks passed, I became more involved in activities outside of work, re-engaging with friends, taking up hobbies, and even volunteering for causes that mattered to me. I realized I had a whole world of possibilities in front of me. I was learning to rediscover my passions, which had been stifled during my marriage. And while thoughts of Jessica still lingered in my heart, I began to embrace the idea that life could move forward without her. I was ready to step into a new chapter, one that was unapologetically my own. It was time to embrace the unknown and see where this journey would take me next. As I moved deeper into this new phase of my life, the months rolled on and the healing process continued. I had gradually learned to redefine who I was outside of my relationship with Jessica. I started to embrace my independence and the freedom that came with it. I took up hiking, exploring trails that led me to beautiful vistas, and I found solace in the quiet of nature. Each trek felt like a personal victory, a step further away from the pain and into a brighter future. I made new friends, joined a local community center, and even signed up for a cooking class. I had never realized how much I had put aside while trying to support Jessica's ambitions. In these new interactions, I felt a sense of joy and connection that I hadn't experienced in a long time. It was freeing to rediscover parts of myself that had been buried under the weight of our troubled marriage. As I settled more comfortably into this new routine, I received a message from Jessica that caught me off guard. "Hey, Mike, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I wanted to let you know I'm going to therapy and really trying to work on myself. I hope we can talk more openly when you feel ready." I paused, staring at the screen. It was a vulnerable admission, and part of me felt a flicker of empathy for her. I had wanted her to take this step, to find her way and confront her actions. I found myself wondering if she had truly begun to change, or if this was just another attempt to regain control over a situation that had spiraled out of her grasp. I decided to respond thoughtfully. "I appreciate you reaching out, Jess. I think it's great that you're focusing on yourself. I still need time and space for now, but I hope you find what you're looking for." After sending the message, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Letting go of the bitterness and resentment was an essential part of my healing. I didn't want to carry that weight any longer. The closure I had sought was materializing, albeit slowly. Over time, we fell into a routine of exchanging occasional messages. They were cordial, devoid of the tension that had characterized our earlier conversations. I started to see that, while we might never return to the intimacy we once shared, there was potential for a different kind of relationship, one rooted in mutual respect and understanding. With the changing seasons, I began to embrace the idea of dating again. It felt daunting at first, but I was ready to open my heart to new possibilities. I signed up for a dating app, my heart racing with a blend of excitement and anxiety as I crafted my profile. I found myself reminiscing about the things I loved: hiking, cooking, and social justice. I wanted to attract someone who shared those values. A few weeks later, I matched with a woman named Lisa who seemed to embody the qualities I admired. We connected over our shared love for the environment and social causes. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, and after a few weeks of chatting, we decided to meet for coffee. When I walked into the cafe that day, I felt a flutter of nervousness in my stomach. But as soon as I sat across from Lisa, I realized I was enjoying myself. Her laughter was infectious, and our easy banter reminded me of the importance of connection. It felt refreshing to engage in conversation without the baggage of my past weighing me down. As we talked about our interests and passions, I found myself opening up in a way I hadn't thought was possible so soon after everything that had happened with Jessica. I was reminded that it was okay to be vulnerable, and that there were still people out there who could appreciate me for who I was. As our relationship developed, I remained cautious. I took my time, ensuring I was emotionally ready to invest in something new. But with Lisa, I felt a sense of potential, a chance to create a relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. Months passed, and with each date, I felt more like my old self again. One evening, as we strolled through a local park, I took a moment to reflect on how far I had come. I had transformed a painful experience into an opportunity for growth, and for the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely happy. I continued to engage with my hobbies, connecting with old friends and making new ones. I volunteered for local environmental organizations, where I met like-minded individuals who fueled my passion for making a difference. I was rediscovering a part of me that had been overshadowed during my marriage. Looking back, I realized that my journey with Jessica had taught me invaluable lessons about love, trust, and self-respect. While the relationship had ended in heartbreak, it also provided me with a clearer understanding of what I wanted from my future relationships. I learned that it's essential to communicate openly, to express needs and boundaries, and to never lose sight of individual passions. I was rediscovering my voice and my worth, and that was a gift I would carry with me for the rest of my life. In the end, I found a way to reconcile the past while embracing my future. The scars of betrayal would always be a part of my story, but they no longer defined me. I was ready to step into a new chapter, one filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings.